All right, everybody. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to come and attend this inaugural announcement and discussion presentation of the Canadian Association of Security Professionals, and basically presenting our go forward plan for everybody here. Basically, the presentation is going to be recorded, so it will be made available for a couple people who cannot be here today. Um, there is a chat function on your system, so we're not going to have questions during this initial presentation. If you will have any questions, please type them into the chat and we will get them answered towards the end of the presentation. I do have a few people that are already doing active work for CASP, and so they are going to be given a few minutes to chat at the end of today's presentation. So I'm going to start off by giving a bit of a background as to how this came about. As pretty much everyone here knows or realizes, there's a few people who are fairly new to the security industry. Security is actually one of the few industries where there is no ongoing training requirement. And in some provinces, there's no training requirement whatsoever, which is ultimately shocking given the potentially difficult, dangerous, and litigious nature of the situations that security professionals are expected to engage in. My background is not security, although I have worked as a security professional in the past as a part-time activity doing event security more than anything else. My background's actually in education, and I have worked with numerous organizations to develop vocational training programs and the like. And that's how I got involved with this as well. I was partnered with Columbia College in Calgary, and we ultimately got the contract to redo the Alberta Basic Security Training Program in 2023. What came out of the industry consultation was that that they wanted changes to the Alberta Basic Security Training Program, of course, but they also were desperate for additional training. And at the time, we sat down and we brainstormed a number of different courses and programs that were believed to be needed by the industry. When we took that back to the government, the Alberta government basically said, really, we only want the basic security. And they gave a lot of reasons, but it's legitimate. Industry needs to professionalize itself. If the security industry wants to offer training and make that available to better the security professionals, that is on the industry to set up and run. And ultimately took that back to the people who were involved in the ABST program, and the decision was made to do so. It was also decided very, very quickly that security in Alberta and security in Prince Edward Island and Ontario and in British Columbia was the same. So this really didn't need to be an Alberta initiative. It should really be a nationwide initiative. So we started by brainstorming all the courses that we needed, and that was in the summer 2024. We started also developing a website. That's the CASP website that you have probably been on and visited. For about 6-8 months, we were working on course development, and those courses started to become available in February 2025. Because of my background in education and learning theory and instructional strategies, I've been really, really pushing high quality courses. Students may not be too particularly keen on being forced to actually learn the material, not being able to skip ahead, but the industry, the clients, and society truly want the learners to actually come out of the courses learning something. So that has been a focus of mine for the duration of this project. And what's happening today is we're going to start with the other two aspects of CASP, which is recruitment and advocacy. So my understanding or my experience with governance is limited, and it is absolutely growing very, very quickly. And working with some experts or people who know a lot more than I do, we came up with a number of different statements associated with the governance of CASP. So ultimately, CASP's vision is to professionalize the private security industry through advocacy and training. CASP's mission supports the private security industry by establishing professional standards for security professionals, developing robust competency-based training and recertification programs, and educating and advocating to government, clients, and the public about the benefits of the security industry. CASP ultimately provides value to the private security industry with knowledge and skills to perform effectively in their roles. Ultimately, CASP provides security professionals with relevant and effective training, information, and benefits, provides security employers with training resources and a collective voice, provides the security clients with information and assistance in making informed decisions about security solutions, and provides the government with collective information and recommendations on secure industry needs, and provides society with competent, capable, and professional security services. Oh, that's interesting. There we go. So what is CASP's purpose? It's ultimately to build esprit de corps within the security industry, to provide knowledge and skills to security professionals so they can be better and safer in their roles, to develop skills in security professionals that build public trust, and to provide security professionals with a sense of resolve and determination in their role. CASP provides value to the security industry, which is the employers and security professionals with low-cost quality training, the security industry with access to group benefits, the security industry with the ability to purchase uniforms, gear, equipment at reduced costs, and security professionals with discounts on local products and services. Honestly, CASP is focused specifically in online training. We allow other trainers to post their training on the CASP website, and really looking for people who are providing in-person training, such as physical control tactics, handcuffing, and the like, because those skills need to be taught to security professionals in an in-person environment. So yes, we provide online training, but we also provide the opportunity for other trainers to promote their training programs through CASP. CASP isn't involved in selling uniforms, gear, etc., but one of the committees is mandated to go out and find and make agreements, partnerships with existing retailers. And this brings us to an organizational governance structure as presented here. Because CASP has a unique needs in terms of the security of the courses, the governance structure that's presented will ultimately meet CASP's needs for the foreseeable future. There exists an executive team that have specialized skills necessary for their position, but generally they are not within the security industry themselves. The executive director, assistant director, finance, and IT specialized in their roles and oversee the operation, the day-to-day operation of CASP. But information and the direction that CASP moves in is set by a development and advisory board that is comprised of security professionals. Okay, these members of the development and advisory board are generally going to be security professionals, diverse in demographic by their area of expertise, by the geography in which they live, so trying to get representation from across Canada, and of course by their experience. There is identified 3 standing committees within the Development Advisory Board, one on recruitment, one on advocacy, and one on training. CASP is set up as an unincorporated association, and it's actually quite common to be an unincorporated association, although it doesn't get a lot of press. A number of them are listed here on this page, thanks to Google AI for identifying these and giving brief descriptions. But I want to point out the one that's, of course, highlighted in yellow. Professional associations, which are groups of people who work in the same profession, can come together, form an unincorporated association for the betterment of that profession. Simply unincorporated means we don't have a registration with the government. CASP will not be a legal entity at this stage. The association ultimately functions through its members, like any association ultimately does. The Development and Advisory Board and the committees are simply going to give direction to the executive on how CASP, the direction that CASP should be moving in. If you're familiar with corporations, these are some of the benefits and detriments of an unincorporated association. It's really simple and cost-effective to establish. There's more flexibility in the operating structure, easier to modify. There is, on the detriment side, no prescribed procedure for resolving disputes. That is something that we need to develop. And there is a liability potential in the sense that members may be personally liable for the association's debts. That would be the executive. And suitability. If there's high risk or high value events going on, incorporation is probably a better route. Now, once CASP gets a governance structure that functions properly, gets bylaws established, then it is definitely possible and likely that CASP will go about and incorporate. But until we figure out how we want to operate, we're going to stick with an unincorporated association. I do want to talk about the two detriments that were identified. One is with regards to insurance. We already have insurance. We had insurance since last November: professional liability, commercial general liability, directors and officers liability, and cyber and privacy liability. You can see a faded out version of our current insurance on the right-hand side. Currently, it's set for $1 million, but that would definitely go up as CASP expands in its business practices and the like. With regards to risk, online instruction, which will be CASP's primary function, is low risk. We already have a general liability waiver on the website, and learners waive liability in every course. The other things that CASP will be involved in is providing information, which is low risk, and recommending vendors is also low risk. So there actually was a couple of court cases in the early 2000s that dealt with actually university advisors providing information to students as to what courses they should take. And it came out that while information can be provided, ultimately the responsibility falls on the recipient to verify that that's in their best interest. So all of CASP's activities are low risk. So, but that is not the same as for security professionals. Security professionals are literally putting themselves in dangerous and litigious situations with little to zero training. And so one of the primary objectives of CASP is to establish professional and training standards. As I just said, 6 provinces in Canada require one basic training course between 30 and 50 hours in order to become a security guard, and that's it. No other province requires any additional training to function as a security professional. If you want to carry a handcuffs and baton, engage in physical control, yes, training is there, but it's not mandatory. But the other 4 provinces and the territories do not require any training whatsoever, which is woefully inadequate given the current and future expectations of security professionals. There are no standards in Canada, so CASP is literally creating the standard for Canadian security professionals. This is a very daunting task. I've had numerous conversations with people on this. It's not going to be perfect the first time, which allows us to get feedback from the industry and go about tweaking the standards such that it works best for the security industry, government, and clients and society. Just to give an example of where security is heading, there is, of course, an increasing societal need for security professionals. Police officers are their budgets are limited. They're being stretched thin. In many cases, they aren't even responding to minor crimes, summary offenses, and the like. So there is an opportunity for security professionals to take over traditional law enforcement responsibilities. walking community beats, engaging with those living and working in communities, handling minor situations themselves. And there's a list of activities at the bottom that I'm not going to read through. And if they discover that a situation warrants, additional assistance, bringing the appropriate emergency services for more serious situations. Now, as you read through this, some of you might be going, oh, that's interesting, that looks good, or that will never happen. It's already happening. Vancouver, Montreal, Kitchener, Niagara, Hamilton, all have security professionals doing some of these activities. And so how much additional training do they get? In some cases, they get a little bit, couple of weeks or a week. Other places, they get none. And so one of the projects that CASP is currently working on is to come up with training programs that provide security professionals with the necessary skills to function effectively in these roles. What this means is that security professionals ultimately are, the figure on the right-hand side, the first link in the emergency response chain, and because they are in the community where these events are occurring, they may very likely be the first on scene. This also brings us to another aspect of where CASP needs to step up, is that there is not a lot of resources for security professionals when they encounter in the aftermath of traumatic situations. So the Development Advisory Board, one of the committees is going to be mandated to look into what options are available for assistance in those aspects. And that segue does bring us into the Development and Advisory Board. So, as I said originally, it's member controlled. We're looking for security professionals would have diverse demographics by their specialization, by their geography, and by their experience in the security industry. There are 3 standing subcommittees: recruitment subcommittee, advocacy subcommittee, and a training subcommittee. CASP has actually done some preliminary work in all of these areas. We've had conversations, we've taken notes, we've got some information that we will ultimately pass on to these committees as they get struck. And that will be the starting point for their go-forward mandate. We're going to now look at each of these subcommittees in detail. So to start, the recruitment subcommittee is going to be focused on benefiting security professionals and security employers. And basically, we're looking at how to encourage security professionals, security companies to join up with CASP, and then looking at organizations that could provide services to the benefit of security professionals and security companies. Things like home, health, auto, vehicle, business insurance, getting reduced rates through the association, identifying vendors for uniforms, gear, vehicles, travel accommodation, etc. Getting discounts at local businesses. I've learned a few things in the past couple of years. One of them is OSINT, Open Source Intelligence. And if you simply Google first responder discounts in Canada, you'll find out that law enforcement, fire, paramedics have discounts at many restaurants, many stores, many businesses. And given that security professionals are also effectively first responders, first of all, getting them recognized as such, but also getting them the same discounts so that they can, as a recognition for the work that they do for the communities. And then there's the idea of value added. There's going to be a nominal membership, probably in the range of $30 to $40 to be a member of CASP. We want to give back more than that through the benefits, reduced rates, and all of that, as well as discounts in courses. So a person who, if you get a 10% savings on all the courses that are available, simply spending $350 covers the cost of membership. Currently, very likely, security professionals will be expected to take the training themselves, may or may not be reimbursed by their employer, but over time, the goal is for more employers to be covering the cost of training of their security professionals. And on the website, there is a calculation. If you are able to charge and go to your client and say, hey, for an additional $1 per hour, we can provide our security professionals with up to 30 hours of annual training, and of course explain the benefits to the company with that. So that's a long-term goal. How about advocacy? With regards to advocacy that is focused on promoting the security industry to clients, government, and the public. Explaining the current role of security professionals and potentially the relationship between training and the current role. Look at what the potential future roles of security professionals are, how CASP is developing standards for those roles, and then looking at getting the appropriate recognition in terms of pay based on training and experience, and based on a living wage for people, because this is becoming for some definitely a career. Another mandate of the advocacy subcommittee would be to inform the security industry of relevant developments in the news or in government. And I just happened to see a news report just before coming onto this, where the federal government is looking at making the RCMP a federal police only, much like the FBI, and therefore municipalities are going to need to come up with their own regional policing options. So something like that would be a potential opportunity for security professionals to step in and, as I said, engage in the minor crime, minor initiative projects. And then informing the public of the critical and evolving role of security professionals. And finally, the training subcommittee, which is probably the one that's advanced the most, at least in the development of courses, but still there's a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of training. This subcommittee is focused on developing training standards and programs to benefit security professionals and security employers. So, as I've already said, security professionals are expected to put themselves in difficult and litigious situations. And honestly, they do not have the training to effectively and safely perform in that environment. So this leads to increased risk of injury, risk of litigation, and a negative image of the security industry overall. So CASP, this subcommittee will look at developing a rigorous training program, look at promoting and encouraging national basic security training standards, look at annual professional development, both is post-specific training and in-service training, recertification, ranks, levels of security professionals. Over on the right-hand side was one of the things that we brainstormed. 3 levels of security professional, 4 levels of security professional based on years in and continued annual training. And this would allow a client to sit there and go, hey, we want how many basic level guards, how many advanced level people do we want working in our facility? And they're getting recognized in pay for their time spent in their system. We can also look at law enforcement, because law enforcement is going through significant changes, at least in Alberta. They're advancing the requirements for peace officer or special constable training. And so there's opportunities there to see, hey, how much training do they get? How much would it be reasonable for security professionals in that regard as well? You probably have seen, I can find it, there it is. Okay, this is the current CASP website, which you know and probably have gone through, looked at courses, potentially signed up for courses. This is based on a learning management system that is really good at presenting courses, called Moodle. It's not the greatest when it comes to presenting information outside of a course. And so there is going to be a transformation in the next couple of days, next couple of weeks, where we're going to end up with, now it looks very similar, that's intentional, a WordPress website here that's much better at providing information outside of the courses. There's going to be opportunities for recruitment and advocacy subcommittees to contain their information, look at professionalization, and of course links to the existing training website, where some of the redundancy will be removed here such that the training website can really focus on training. So there's going to be some changes over there. It'll also allow us to put in a membership registration system. And just like everything, things take a lot longer than you would hope. So that's not yet developed. All right, so what are the next steps? So anyone that's interested in the development and advisory board can email CASP with your background, your experience, and which committee that you are interested in. That is the recruitment, the advisory, or the training subcommittees. If you could get that information to me by Wednesday by sending it to support@casp.ca, that is what your background is in security industry, your experience, and which committee you're interested in. We will finalize the committees at that point in time. There is a representative agreement that is required. Realizing that you work for a security company, you are soliciting clients for contracts, realize that as part of CASP, you may be doing pretty much exactly the same thing, but now you're soliciting on behalf of the security industry. Just a recognition of that and delineation of responsibilities there. According to people who've read it over, it's fairly fair. Ultimately, the executive director, which currently is me, will meet with each of the committees to finalize their mandates. Those mandate letters are basically being drafted right now. And the committees will be meeting with themselves and with the executive director on a regular basis, every couple of weeks, every month or so, to update what's going on, to provide information to put on the website, and provide information to give to the membership. If there's information that you need from the members in terms of what they want, or you want to put forward proposals, we can easily put that out with every month or every 2-month newsletter that goes out to everyone who's registered on the CASP website. For everyone else that is in the security industry or in any way, shape, or form affiliated with security, I would appreciate it if you would provide suggestions to the committees, review their recommendations, and say, what's best for the industry as a whole. Promote CASP to your colleagues, employers, and clients. Because we want people to take courses and provide feedback on those courses, if you choose to take, if you basically sign up for courses from here on until we actually get the membership website set up, you will get free membership for the first year from when we get it organized. Excuse me. So, and it's an incentive to get on there, take some courses. And ultimately, there is a watchdog, which is kind of the newsletter that is being developed on anything that is pertinent to the security industry, either short articles that are 2 or 3 paragraphs or longer missives on major aspects of the security industry. We'll figure out how we're going to organize the watchdog, or someone else will figure out how we're going to organize the watchdog over time. All right. And excuse me, as I go up here. That takes us back to here. The next thing that was actually on the list is to have 2 speakers talk about their experience in the association with CASP, and I'm going to turn it over to Tyler now for a few minutes. Just a second, Tyler. Go for it.